Thanks a lot, Charlie, for this really exciting perspective you're drawing with SpaceX here. So we'll keep you there for the next panel. So, well, sit here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is going to be quite dreamy because it's yesterday the moon and tomorrow Mars. We're going to discuss this with Charlie there and also Stanislas Maximin of the startup Latitude and Bertrand Baratte at the space program of Air Liquide. Okay, so let's start the idea. Yesterday the moon, but it's more like tomorrow the moon, right? Because recently the NASA has reported to September 2026 the Artemis program of landing some 4 astronauts on the moon. So first thing you could think is, come on, we have done this already in 1969, and now we're here again, and it looks like it's hard to get there again. But it's a quite different idea this time, because the idea on the longer run is to keep a lasting presence, to more or less establish a community of humans on the moon. So, and the moon is also a quite exciting program that excites a lot of nations, like Japan recently, and also China, Russia, of course, Europe, and even Israel. So there are quite a lot of achievement, failures, and excitement, and also successes to go to the moon. So tomorrow the moon, can you tell us why it is different this time and why it takes so long to get back on the moon?
Well, you know, in a lot of ways we are starting over. You know, we didn't keep going, so we don't have the technology that we used then, and most of the technology that we used then wouldn't work very well today. So we've basically got to do it over. And if you remember the Apollo program back in those days, that took a decade and it took a lot of money to do. We don't have that much money to do it this time around. We don't need as much money to do it this time around. But we do need to all work together to make it happen. So there's a lot of work to do. SpaceX is working on part of it. You know, NASA's working on part of it with a lot of other partners, including partners in Europe. So it is going to be a big effort. And unfortunately, when you have that many different partners, there's also a lot of coordination that takes time as well. And but it's exciting to see us going back. And I think from our perspective, it's really practice. It's how do we do this because we really want to go to Mars. And the moon is easy to do the trials on because it's close, and we want to start trying because we are going to make mistakes as we go, and we've got to learn from those.
Okay, so Bertrand Baratte, you work for a space program at Air Liquide. So I remind to the people, Air Liquide is a world leader in industrial gas and on molecules that would be needed for fuel, for example, for going to spatial explorations. Tell us what's the idea about going back to the moon and how you can contribute to this.
Thanks very much for this question. So I like the title of the panel. You said yesterday the moon, tomorrow Mars. So I would say tomorrow sustainability in space, after tomorrow the moon, and maybe after the moon, Mars. So maybe if you give me a few minutes, I'd like to dig a bit in that, because I don't know how much the audience know about space. We as citizens are big users of space assets through the data you're using every day for navigation, for communication, for Earth observation. And this is only the beginning. This is driven by the digitalization of our society. I think today the figure is that we are using up to 40 satellites every day. This will increase with Starlink. There are 8,000 satellites in orbit. At the end of the decade, there will be 27,000 satellites in orbit just to fulfill the big data needs on Earth, and mostly to sustain, let's say, sustainability objective on Earth. But on the other side, there is something that I would like to speak a bit. It's the fact that the way we access to space from Earth didn't change from the beginning. To give a figure, for 1 ton of useful satellite in orbit, you still need 9 tons of propellant just to extract from Earth's gravity. I'm not going to complain because we are selling propellant still. What I want to point here is that spacecraft today are single use, except the Falcon that is reused up to 15 times, so congrats for that, SpaceX. But most of them are single use, one way, and are ending up as debris as soon as they're running out of fuel. So what's happening is that on one side, we need big data from space to support the sustainability objective, but on the other side, our space operations are clearly not sustainable. Even the UN has declared at the end of last year that space debris were one of the 6 systemic risk tipping points, in the sense that this could damage space assets that have become the ears and the eyes of Earth in space. That's why we have no other, let's say, choice. We need to make space operation more sustainable. And for this, we have plenty of ideas. Maybe I can give some.
Okay, fast.
First, decarbonize the industry. Second, standardize and think interoperability per design. Today, that's very custom made. Third, develop reusability for all the spacecraft. Fourth, in-orbit servicing and in-orbit refueling, in the sense of life extension of spacecraft, such as airplanes, for example, that are refueled up to 40,000 times. 5, use the moon as an astroport to leverage on space resources, to make propellants, to make energy, to make oxygen for life support, but also low gravity to reach any orbit from the moon with much less energy than from Earth. And then after, I think we'll explore a bit more those points. Regulate, because we have to keep in mind that if we go to the moon, everybody will target the South Pole. The South Pole, for the audience, it's as tiny as Île-de-France. So imagine US, China, Russia, Japan, India coming to Île-de-France at the same time. You will need big regulation to put a frame on that. Otherwise, Far West will be nuts. And the last point is international collaboration. We have an opportunity here.
Okay, so Stanislas Maximin, so I present you rapidly. So you founded at the astonishing age of 19 this company called Latitude that is based in Reims, in France. And what this company does is manufacturing mini rockets, like a really small Falcon 9, I would say, that transport kind of 100 kilos for putting small satellites on low orbit. And your point there is that you say that maybe Europe is late in this dream of the moon and of Mars, even if it's a bit waking up. And I think you want also to make a plea to dream again of space, especially in Europe and in France.
Absolutely. When it comes to Europe, we definitely are late. We were absolutely struck by what SpaceX has done, and then every other company has been doing in the US, but in other countries, in China, even Japan. And yeah, we just missed the train because we were so used to absolutely obliterate everything in our path in the past 30 years that with Ariane 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 a bit, that when, and we were so sure that we were going to dominate and keep dominating because we were the best, we did everything right, and we did it right every time on the first try. But then a newer model came in, and that newer model was entrepreneurship, a vision on the long term, which is not just putting things into space, but doing it for a purpose, which is preserving life and making life interplanetary. And without a purpose, without a goal other than just research and commercial activities, Europe was completely, kind of
in a slump.
In shock against that. And yeah, you just have to realize Falcon 9 first flight was in what? 2011?
2013, right? Oh,
Okay, now
comes
it's
back.
Yeah, so 2013. And in the last few weeks, you launched more than Europe in the last 2 years. And there, yeah, just 10 launches in the last 4 weeks, right? 4 weeks, yeah. So the reality is that we just missed the train. So now we want to go back to competing, to doing great things in space, in low Earth orbit, but also on the moon, also in Mars and the solar system. But we lack of something. We lack of vision. We lack of a strategy, a clear strategy. And we also need to change our culture. We have to take risks. We have to work all together. We have to foster competition to end up with a competitive, innovative, and ambitious European space program.
And to accept failure.
And to really accept failure. I'll give you an example. I mean, I will not teach you anything about failure because this is how you grew on SpaceX and Tesla, and this is incredible.
We actually have a blooper reel of all of our failures, so you can find it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's absolutely great. and we did fail when we tested our first rocket engine back in December 2022. We went, we prepared it for like 9 months. We worked on the engine for 2 years. We light it up, and we have as much fire going down as going up, which is a problem. So the igniter just fell away. And so, yeah. So this was a big failure. And we were 3 days before Christmas, and we had to solve everything in a few days. And we managed it. And we solved the problem, and we ended up testing multiple times the same engine 2 weeks after spending 2 weeks in a terrible environment in northern Scotland. Yeah, and we learned so much that we would not have done if we just wanted to win the first time. So
okay, let's maybe precise that your engine is a 3D printed engine, right?
Completely 3D printed, so from powder to full engine working. Yeah.
Okay, so now if we think about Mars, because it's the idea. Okay, what would be the horizon there? What's the calendar for Elon Musk on going to Mars? Because it's the idea right from the beginning of the foundation of SpaceX, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean that's why SpaceX was started.
Exactly.
And actually, it goes all the way back to the early space program, and Wernher von Braun had the approach to go to Mars. He wrote a book in the 50s called The Mars Project on how you do it. He actually got most of it right, and Elon read that book, and that was a big part of his desire to start SpaceX. So Mars is the target, and really, in terms of timing, it's most of the things that Elon wants to do is as fast as possible. So that is the directive we have. But in reality,
but what is as soon as possible? Is that the end of this century, or
before that?
Or before that?
So with the Starship system, we look to get that orbital as soon as possible, get it ready to be able to fly to Mars as soon as possible. The next every 26 months, there's a transit window to go to Mars when Mars and Earth are.
So you have a window open every 2 years.
About every 2 years. And the next one will be in 2026. So one of the things we're doing is working very, very hard to try to get a Starship ready to be able to make a Mars transit during that next transit.
Sound? Okay, lost the sound. Okay, so again, the challenge there is that we already, the NASA and other spatial shift have already been on Mars, and it has been small rovers.
Yeah.
But this time it's like 100-ton cargo, right?
Right. So the Starship itself was actually built to basically take enough payload to Mars to really sustain a colony there. So each Starship can take about 100 tons to Mars. And the idea in those first transits is to get hardware on Mars that we can test things like mining for ice, manufacturing propellants, surveying the areas to understand where the best opportunities to build a sustainable area that can be habitated and has all the resources that are needed. So those first ones are not going to take people. They're going to take hardware. They're going to take robotics, and they're going to basically make a bridgehead to get there. And the idea would be to have hopefully a number of those missions happen before the end of this decade.
So to fix the ideas, let's say that you need more or less 6 months to go to Mars as a cargo, and you need at least 6 air refueling. So you need to refuel during the travel.
Yeah, the Mars operation is basically to get a Starship into orbit, and then we have to refuel it with 6 flights of a Starship to get all the fuel it needs to go to Mars before it can make that burn to Mars.
Voilà, use the moon as a launch pad also a bit?
I think actually it's easier to go from low Earth orbit. So the idea is to put it into low Earth orbit and then go direct to Mars.
And the first thing to do there on Mars is to find methane and to
find water.
To find water and to build a propellant to come back, because the idea is to come back. Before getting humans there in a dream world, you have to be able to be sure to be able to come back.
Yes, and we have to be sure to be able to support them while they're there.
Okay, so Bertrand, I believe that in this Mars dream, certainly it's a new configuration there, and we would need public money and private money, and we will need companies from all over the place to get together to fulfill that dream, and we would need people from Europe, from the US, from Israel, from Japan, from India maybe, and all sorts of companies. I think about Air Liquide, for example, because then again, once you're on the moon, if you want to establish this human colony there, you will need air, you will need water, you will need maybe agriculture to be able to grow plants. You will be able to grow fishes, or you will be able. You will have to. You have a few challenges there on the moon to be able to survive. And I have to remember that the moon is quite a hostile territory, and there is really toxic dust. There are many challenges there on the moon where you can also intervene. And as Charlie used to say, SpaceX is a transportation company.
That's correct.
It cannot do everything.
Right.
So we need the help of everybody. Do you agree on this?
Yeah, fully agree on that. I wish Mars is part of the mission statement of Air Liquide, but that's not the case yet. The mission statement of the company is, of course, to develop technology for a sustainable future on Earth. Maybe I can explain who is Air Liquide and how we could contribute to that, and hopefully to help you. So Air Liquide is a global company. It's a world leader of gas and cryogenics for the last 120 years. We are established in 73 countries. To give a size of the company, 67,000 people. The core business of the company is clearly to master gas and cryogenic molecules on their entire value chain, from production or extraction from natural resources. So this will be necessary for Mars and Moon, up to the application of our customers.
And you're a partner of Ariane Group, right?
Absolutely. I'll explain that. So to give figures, 95% of the company, that's gas provision. 5% of the company, that's technology development. Technology to produce our own gas, but also technology to help our customer using our gases. And that's how we've implemented just close by Grenoble, and I think it's important to tell it for the ecosystem. We've incorporated Air Liquide Advanced Technology. That's our technology campus. Now it's counting 1,400 people dedicated to cryogenic technology development for science, for space, for clean energy. And this site exists from the 1962. And we started with COA on the hydrogen liquefaction and with CNES on the development of the cryogenic tanks of Ariane, oxygen and hydrogen. And then we started to develop cryogenic machines for space flights that's very unknown. Huh? This is just close by. For example, we did the helium cryostat of Air mission. We did the dilution cooler of Planck. We did the refrigerator of biological samples on the International Space Station called MELFI. We did a full product line of cryo cooler for Earth observation satellite. So how can we help tomorrow? We'd like to help this time by leveraging on our Earth technology that we are developing for energy transition that could find their place in this new era.
On the moon, you mean?
On the moon, on Mars. So let me give 3 examples. For example, as you said, Charles, you will need in-orbit refueling. In-orbit refueling will rely mostly on technology that we are developing for clean mobility. Because we are speaking about cryogenic tanks, zero boil-off, gas transfer, etc. So that's what we are doing on Earth. So eventually, we could spin in those Earth technology towards space with a marginal effort. And this could help to extend the lifetime of the spacecraft. Second example, it's about energy. We'll need to produce high energy in space for the space settlement. So again, all the technology that we are developing on Earth for energy transition could be in synergy and a good use for this. And the last example is about gas purification techniques. For the last 120 years, we've developed a full portfolio of gas purification techniques, from adsorption to membrane to distillation, etc. And this will be necessary to harvest volatiles on the celestial bodies, to purify them, to liquefy them, to store them, and to use them to serve the purpose of transportation, life support, energy. For example, if I take the example of Mars, on Earth, we are one of the world leaders of carbon capture. The Mars atmosphere is about CO2. CO2, as soon as you're able to capture CO2, you could
Which we need to
make oxygen.
Make methane.
And then methane.
Okay, so Stanislas, let's be clear. Your mini rocket Zephyr has no intention to go on Mars. But
It's going to be hard.
Voilà. But you share this dream, and you even say that it's humanity responsibility to go on Mars and to try to go on Mars. So tell us why it's important for humankind to go on Mars, and why is it a dream that we should pursue? As I say, before, in the 1960s, money was not a problem, and it was not a question, and nobody knew how much this Apollo program cost. But now it's a question in the society, and the question of cost is important, and that's also one of the competitive advantage of Starship and SpaceX, which use reusable launchers. So in this environment where cost is a question, why should we invest billions and billions to go on Mars, you think?
Yeah, that's basically why I founded Latitude. I absolutely do believe that humanity has a responsibility, which is to preserve life first and to preserve intelligent life. Because right now, we are the only intelligent form of life we know and we have discovered. And we do not know if we are the only one. There's a very small probability that we are the only one. But right now, we don't know. If we are alone, we have that responsibility to preserve the only intelligent life in the universe, or at least in the galaxy. If there are many others, we have the responsibility to live long enough to see them. And there's also a theory that all, let's say, civilizations might also come to an end because of catastrophes, because we like to fight each other, and now we have the actual weapons to kill each other really fast and to end up civilization. So that's called the Great Filter. And we have a responsibility not to do that, to preserve life. And the best way to actually preserve life is, yes, peace, yes, sustainability, and to preserve the Earth, which is the only place humans will be able to really live nicely. But we have to also expand humanity to other bodies, other celestial bodies, so that in events, in the case of a catastrophe, humanity will still live and we will survive. That's the first point. The second point is I truly believe that we are a curious kind. And there's a reason why we explore everything. And we have to explore. I think it's just natural. And I think in Europe, you are not allowed in Europe to say that we want to do space things because it shows power, it shows pride, and you are not also allowed to say that we want to go elsewhere because we want to explore, not to colonize. It's not the right word. What do we have to colonize? There's nothing there. It's a rock. The moon is a rock. Mars is a rock. Venus is a very
hot rock.
Hard rock with some nasty stuff on it. But it's not Mars, to be honest. We have to colonize the moon, but the moon is too close, so we can still nuke it. So we have to go to Mars. We have to go to the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. And yeah, we just have to do it. We have to preserve life at any cost. We are very close at a point. We have like the next 100 years to make sure life doesn't get filtered by any terrible event.
Okay, so this is more or less the radical thought that Elon Musk had. So there is this question about, do we need to go to Mars because it would be a planet B because we polluted or ruined our planet A so much that we have to go to another planet? Or I think that is not the dream, but the dream is more that humanity is kind of a multi-planetary species. But can you develop a bit about this sense of going to Mars and
Sure.
why it's important?
Sure. Yeah. So agree. I mean, I think Elon's perspective is that we should be a multiplanetary species to ensure survival of our species. So that is one of the main motivators. Mars is a hard place to live. It's not going to be another Earth. So it's not meant to be, and it's not. We need to go there because Earth's going to be so bad in the future. I mean, I don't think we could do that much damage to Earth, but maybe we could to make it that bad. But the other thing that Elon talks about is and the way he puts that is, don't you want to be in a society that has that drive to be a multiplanetary species? Isn't a world where we do that much better than a world where we don't? You know, and that's kind of the people we are. We've always been explorers, and we've done it well and we've done it badly in history. And I think the idea is that we need to continue to do that, to continue to develop as a species and as a society. And definitely, I think there's many things we don't know about our solar system and our existence in this universe. And the only way we're going to find that out is to go out there and look. So that's the other part that I think really excites me to be a part of this.
Okay, so we talk about the first step on going to Mars is bringing some robots there and trying to mine and find if we could find some fuel to get back. Okay, the next step would be to bring humans there. So humans, it's not going there in 6 months, it's more on 45 days. And what would be the calendar there?
I think that kind of depends on what we find when we get there first. But I certainly...
Can you just put on
Sure.
what is on Mars?
There's nothing on,
But
there's
the
no...
heat,
Yeah. So Mars is a very cold place. Its atmosphere is only less than 1% of the atmosphere we have, and it's all carbon dioxide. So, we complain about having high carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, but it's all carbon dioxide there. But it's not warm, that's for sure. So it's going to be a hard place, and the first people that are going to go there are going to have to work very hard. Life is not going to necessarily be pleasant, but I think there's a lot of people with the passion and the vision to do that as a society we can support that. And just like anything, over time that's going to happen. Now, I think in terms of timelines, I think it's going to take us a couple of transits to get confidence that we have the right equipment there, the right things that we can make it a relatively safe approach to do this. This is not going to be without risk. That is for sure. So I think, as soon as we start going, a couple more transits would be another, 4 to 5 years before we'd actually have the ability to send some level of humans to go there.
Yes, quite some time, I would think.
Yeah, but hopefully that means sometime by the end of this decade or early the next decade, we could be in a position to be having people on Mars. So I certainly want to be helping to make that happen. So I want to make sure it happens before I'm too old to do it.
Do you volunteer to be one of the first humans going to Mars?
Well, I don't know if I'll be spry enough to do that by then, but
maybe you,
definitely
Stanislas,
I would try to do
but
that.
Younger.
I hope so. Yeah, definitely. I'd like to be the first one on there.
I'm certain there are people in this audience that will be able to be as part of that cadre that go to Mars the first time around.
Okay, but that would be interesting, at least. And okay, maybe talk about before going to Mars, the business that space has become now. And the market has been quite changing these last years. There is an enormous demand for satellites. That's why you're there also, Stanislas. And the market has been really dominated, I would say. There's even quite a small monopoly of SpaceX this last year, at least, on the market. But what are the perspectives in the 10 years to come? There are many European companies working to be there also in the next 5 years, let's say. There are also some competitors in the US. So maybe your monopoly is ending.
Well, I hope so, actually, to tell you the truth. Even if you look at the development of Tesla, it was Tesla, really dominated the electric vehicle market early in the process. But what we really did was show everybody it was possible. And I think hopefully we're doing much of the same thing in space travel, in the context that we're showing people that it's possible. When we first started working on reusability and landing the rocket and reusing the rocket, so many people would tell us that's impossible. Okay, I have a great job of actually having my boss tell me to go do things that other people are impossible, and then I have a team that actually is really bright and dedicated to going out and making the impossible possible. So the reusability wouldn't be there if we didn't go out and do it. And now people understand that that's sort of the price of entry. If you're going to get into the space business, you got to figure out how to drive reusability into your system, and that's only going to make space travel more sustainable and available. So. Okay,
so Stan, I think that SpaceX has been a role model for you, but now you expect to maybe the student goes faster than the master or whatever, but at least tell us about your ambitions and your calendar there.
Yeah, we'll need a couple of millions, but even billion. It's crazy because, and Tesla says the same, they are happy about competitors coming because the end game is more and more people doing space, more and more people doing sustainable cars. It's absolutely not the thing that people in Europe are saying. The legacy players, not to say the old ones, have a complete opposite way of saying things. They say the same guys that put us in the situation where we don't have any more launch vehicles in Europe at the time I'm speaking. Their position is to say, no. Opening competition would only create problems regarding sovereignty and stuff like this. And SpaceX, the reigning champion for the past couple of years, are saying, no, competition is good. And this is exactly the cultural differences and the mental differences that we need to achieve in Europe to actually be somehow competitive. Now, to come back to Latitude, yes, Zephyr is a stepping stone. We have to learn how to make launchers, yes, but launchers are not that hard. It's plumbing, and it's just getting as much energy as fast as possible down a rocket engine. But making a big rocket reusable, a lot of time, reliable, this is really hard. So we start by Zephyr. It's a small one. We learn everything. We also completely change the model. We take risks. We execute incredibly hard and fast because we have that sense of urgency that SpaceX still has now that you are, what, more than 10,000 in the company?
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
way more than that. Yeah.
No, not way.
You're 100,
Okay.
huh?
And we are 120, and we still have that sense of emergency that pushes us to just keep on the line. And yeah, so Zephyr is a stepping stone because we need to put more mass in low Earth orbit as soon as possible to restore European access to space, to put up a good fight against the guys who are leading the market, and we hope so. We hope that we will be able to compete sometimes to then build a bigger launcher, fully reusable, completely sustainable, because space is probably one of the best tools that we have to fight against climate change and against many of the challenges humanity is facing right now. And we have also that responsibility to use it. And this is our purpose, our vision. We want to catalyze a space-driven era to enhance life on Earth by harnessing space resources.
Okay, but
Well,
you say
the thing I look forward to is when we can talk about what's going on in space rather than how we're getting to space.
Yep.
I mean, we don't talk about the trucks that brought the food and all the items here to this expo. We talk about what we're doing at the expo, right? And that's what space needs to get to. It needs to get to be about what we do there rather than how we get there.
Okay, but until then, how you get there, you as Stanislas said, you are going to put on a big fight, because from what you told me earlier, your idea is to have 10 flights of Starship per day at some point.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Voilà.
and that's not meant to dominate the market. That's
Yes, it does.
That's meant to be what we need to do. You know, if we're going to actually have sustainable settlements on Mars or other parts of space, there's just no way we can do that without lots and lots of hardware going there. And so look at what we have to achieve to actually get there. I hope we don't have to do that I hope there's many others that are doing it. I hope we'll be working with many other companies to actually do that. We're going to be the semi-trucks that take things to Mars. People are still going to have to, figure out how to build things on Mars, how to live on Mars, what to do on Mars. Those are all things that are going to happen. That's the point we want to get to, is where we're thinking about that.
Yeah, and certainly the path to go there is as important as the achievement to be there, because it also creates a common dream for humanity that maybe lacks dreams this last period, these last times. And this dream will be the one of really many companies. As you said, your transportation companies, there are just thousands of things to be done in robotics, to be able to live there. So I think it's an enormous and quite exciting challenge for many of the companies that are here around and many others in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.